Welcome to Study Time, a televised home learning program produced by Rwanda Basic Education Board.
Hello, students of Biology Senior 2. Welcome to today's lesson. As usual, I'm Scovia, your biology teacher. We are like in conclusion of the kingdom animalia that we have been studying all along. We are like in conclusion, all right? So here we want to remind ourselves. We want to remind ourselves of the major things that we went on looking at, and we finalized by looking at other phyla that belongs to kingdom animalia apart from the two that we discussed, all right? So we discussed, to remind ourselves, kingdom animalia has like two groups. It has a group of vertebrates, a group of invertebrates, all right? I think you understand that. We talked of the the group of invertebrates and those of vertebrates, those that have got backbone and those that don't have backbone, all right? Those that don't have backbone, who can remind us the name we call those animals that that do possess the backbone? Who can remind us of the group of kingdom animalia that we say they possess the backbone? Who can remind us? All right. They are called the chordate. All right. So we discussed the chordate, the phylum Chordata, as the phylum that has animals that possess the backbone. All right. Thank you so much. So we looked at different classes. We looked at different classes of phylum Chordata. Another group we looked at, that is phylum Arthropoda, all right? We said phylum Arthropoda do not possess the backbone. There are invertebrates, in other words. Not so? So we said they don't possess the backbone. So we discussed, we have been all along looking at the different classes that we find under phylum Arthropoda, all right? So today we are going to look at other phylum that are found in kingdom animalia that we have not discussed, the lower one, the lower level of organisms that belong to kingdom animalia, that normally in senior 2, we look at them but we don't go deep. We just emphasize on their characteristics. We look at their characteristics, their features, all right? Their features, examples, we don't talk a lot on them as the last thing to talk about in this kingdom animalia that we have been all along looking at. Not so? All right. So for today, we are going to look at other phyla belonging to kingdom animalia apart from phylum Chordata and phylum Arthropoda that we have been looking at all along. All right? Now, what is today's objective? Today's objective, we shall all understand, or by the end of this lesson, everyone here will be able to tell some of the common features of other phylum belonging to kingdom animalia. In other words, we shall look at those different phyla that belong to kingdom animalia and their respective characteristics. So, and examples, in fact, you will be seeing different examples in different phyla that we find in those other phyla that belong to kingdom animalia, apart from those big ones, the two that we have been looking all along. All right? So that is today's objective. Everybody here will have to understand the common features that other phyla that belongs to kingdom animalia possesses. All right? So, what are those phyla? What are those phyla that belong to kingdom animalia? There are a bit many. As I was saying, that we have discussed kingdom phylum Chordata, phylum Arthropoda in details. But for these other lower level of organisms that belong to different phyla of kingdom animalia, we have the following. We have platyhelm, have nematodes, annelid, mollusca, we have coelenterata, we have Cnidaria, Perfera, and Echinodermata. Those are other lower organisms that are also under kingdom Animalia, of which we are just going to look at their characteristics and examples. All right? So when you continue to other levels, you will go in details to study on this kingdom. But for today, for our level here in Senior 2, we are going to look at examples and the features that each possesses. All right? So we can start with the first, if you have no question. All right? So to begin with, we go to the first one, the platyhelminth. That is an example. We have the liver fruits. Look on the screen. Look on the screen. These are the examples. The liver fruits, the flatworms, planera, the tapeworm. I've just picked one, the tapeworm, to show you the structure of one of the examples of those that belongs to phyla platyhelminth. But the main characteristics, as I said, that today's objective will understand some of the features that these organisms that belong to phyla platyhelminth possesses. One, they have mouth but don't have anus. You can imagine. They only have the mouth, but they don't possess the anus. Those are platyhelminth. Their dorsal-flattened body. Look at the diagram here. It is flattened. It is a flattened body, all right? It can be divided into two, bilateral symmetry. In case you cut it into two, it will give you two equal parts, all right? That is bilateral symmetry. You understand that? It is mainly, there are mainly hermaphroditic. Who can try to tell us the word hermaphroditic? What does it mean? Who can tell us the term hermaphroditic? These platyhelminths, they are very tricky. They are surprising animals. They are capable of possessing, in other words, they possess two sexes. So, organisms that possess two sexes, that's the male and female. All along, we have been looking at the female, the male laying egg, putting on the sperm and whatever. But for these ones, they are hermaphroditic. What does it mean? How do they have to produce? Here, when we say the word hermaphrodite, we mean one organ or one organism possesses two reproductive reproductive body. What does it mean? Now, how will you know this is a female, this is a male? In the case of reproduction, in the case of female, sexual activities, when they meet, when two meet, one will agree to become a male, another one becomes a female. As long as they all possess the same sex, they are very funny. They are very funny organisms. They possess two sex organs. When they meet, you find one decides to become a male, another one decides to become a female. So that is how they behave. So they are in a position whereby each of them, one can play the role of the male, another one can play the role of the female. So they are hermaphroditic. All right, that is another characteristic that may differentiate them from the rest of the organisms we have been looking at. All right. So the examples, as I said, you can see we have the liver fruits, we have the flatworms, planium, the tapeworm. That is it. So the body is flat body. All right, that is platyhelminth. So you have to understand the characteristics of this. They have no anus, they have the mouth, flat body, can be divided into two. They have both sexes, the male and female. So they have to decide today, you the one to become a male, you are the one to play the role of the woman. So they are very funny organisms, all right? So we got another phylum. That is the nematode. Nematode also is put under those lower levels of organism in the kingdom Animalia. So how is it? Look at the diagram below on the picture. This is the roundworm. Roundworm, hookworms, and ascalas, SSPP. These ones also belong to nematode, to phyla nematode. All right? So how are they designed? As you see the structure or the picture, how are they designed? How are their features? As you see, their body is round and does not have segments. We have been all along talking about the arthropods with segments, but for these ones, if you look at their structure, they don't have the segments. It's just plain. So the body is unsegmented, just round with tapering ends, all right? They are covered by thick elastic cuticle. They have thick, on their exoskeleton, they have thick elastic cuticle, have simple alimentary canal. They don't have those complicated alimentary canal, just a simple alimentary canal, all right? The mouth is anterior and the anus is posterior. So the mouth is at the start, at one point, and the anus is at another point, all right? Those are the characteristics of also these nematodes as one of the phylum that is put under the lower organisms in kingdom Animalia, all right? Another thing is the phyla Annelida. The annelid, you look at this, the riches. This is a good example of the annelids, all right? What do they have? Their body is segmented. You can see some segments, small segments. And between the segment, there are things like the sheets. If you look at the iron sheet, they are like sheets, and we call that one septa. All right? They lack legs. They don't have legs. Instead, what helps them to move is what we call the chitia. There are small things here, and the lower, small things down. You can't easily see them, but they are here. If you look carefully, down. Those are chitia that help them to move. Because they move, they do movement, they locomote from a place to place. So there are some crystal, kind of, that help them to move. All right? They have alimentary canal with olo and ano opening. So they have the mouth and the anus opening. All right? That is their alimentary canal. So this is also another phyla, which is annelid, of which it is put under the lower level of organisms in kingdom Animalia. All right? Another phyla that we put under this lower level organism in kingdom Animalia is the mollusca. The mollusca, what are the characteristics? What are the characteristics of kingdom or phylum mollusca? The mollusca's body is covered by hard shell. A hard shell. Look at this. Go on the screen and see. This is the mollusca. The snail is a good example of the mollusca. Go on the screen and see. Look at the screen. The mollusca has a shell, of which the shell is very hard. You see? A very hard shell. So organisms in phylum mollusca have got a hard shell that covers the upper part, all right? The external part. Those are mollusca. That is the external part. They have the ventral side of the body has one soft mollusca foot. So they have the kind of soft foot down here on the lower part. They have a sensitive structure, that is the tentacles. These two you see. Don't mistake them to be antenna, because we have all along been looking at antenna. So these ones are not antenna. Don't call them pair of antenna. No. They are just called tentacles. These are sensitive, very sensitive. It's where the eyes are located. So don't call them antenna, rather call them tentacles, all right? So what is their role? Their role, since they possess the eyes, they are very sensitive. They are the ones that detect the enemies. It's where the eyes are located. They are here, the eyes. It's where the eyes are located on these two tentacles, all right? So those are also examples. The other examples, we have octopus, slug, squids, and oyster. These are also included in phyla mollusca. So, as I've said, these ones we are discussing today Please, don't mistake things. These ones we are discussing, those who are under kingdom, I emphasize, they are under kingdom animalia, all right? They are under kingdom animalia, but they are lower organisms. They are lower organisms of which they go forming their own phylum, all right? So, you need to know, though we don't go far to discuss them, but you need to know them. You need to know them at your level here in senior 2. You need to know these ones. You need to know their futures. You need to know their examples, all right? So, and as you go on, you will need to study different things on them when you continue with your studies in upper classes. But this one is also very important. So that is phyla mollusca. Another phyla that we talk about here, under those phyla that we put under kingdom animalia, but in lower levels, there is phyla polyphyla, all right? Look at the example here on the screen. The sponges. Now, these ones are very funny. They don't locomote. They just go and stuck on dead organisms, like they can stuck on logs. That's why they say they're sensile. They are sensile. What does it mean? It means that for them, they just go and attack on the logs. They attack on dead coals. So they don't locomote, all right? They just stuck on one thing, the dead coals. If the tree, let's say the tree is cut down and it is left there, for many years, you find they have grown on those trees, all right? So they don't locomote. For them, they don't move from place to place. When we talk of locomotion, that is to move from place to place. So they attack on the rock. When you go out and look at the rock, you find they have gathered on the rock. What are their features? They have the simple body made of cavity, interconnected cavities. Now, when you look at this diagram here, all right, this thing you see like a projections, they contain pores, all right? These pores and these cavities, interconnected cavities, have the flagella, all right? They have flagellated cells. What is the role of flagellated? Normally, when we talk of the flagella, like on bacteria and whatever, the role of the flagella is for movement. So when these ones also have got the flagellated cells for water currents, like when water passes through or passes over them, they have the capacity of beating water here and there, like they are feeding, they can pick the food they want from the water bodies. So it's these flagellated cells that are used to beat the water current, all right, or to create water currents. So they have that capacity due to the presence of these flagellated cells located on their body cavities, that lines their body cavities. That is the structure, or this is the structure of the sponge. The sponge as an example of polyphyla phyla, all right? So as I said, for these lower level organisms in kingdom animalia, what you have to know basically at your level here, senior 2, you have to know the characteristics of each, I'm emphasizing, of each of the phyla here. So as I said, for the case of these polyphyla, one, their body is made of cavities, interconnected cavities, of which they have flagella lined with flagellated cells, which flagellated cells will create water currents. As water bypasses over, they will be beating the water, like when they are feeding, by picking the food from the water. When we talk, as I said, the word flagella or flagellum is for moving or locomotion. But it is not to move from place to place. That it will keep moving, beating water here and there when selecting particles of food to pick and eat and other things like that. All right? So, now, another phyla that we can look at under those lower phyla in the kingdom animalia, there is what we call Echinodelmata. The phyla Echinodelmata. You look at the diagram below here, the picture here. I'm just picking one example on each case because there are many, such that we can get overview. You can tell how does it look like. So for this case, Echinodelmata, we have different examples, as I mentioned them here. Have the sea cucumbers, we have the sea akin, we have the starfish. These ones live in water. They live in water, all right? So look at this. What can you see on the outside features? What can you see? So you see this part outside, the external part. You can mention of the 5-way radial symmetry, their body. Count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it has like 5 projections, all right? They have 5 projections, of which they are covered with, it has exoskeleton, obviously you can see it has exoskeleton with kind of spines. You can call them spines, these ones. These are like spines, projections, like projections. This is a starfish. It is a good example of phyla Echinodelmata, right? It has these, so they are carious exoskeleton, meaning that they have calcium. Their body is covered by calcium, all right? This exoskeleton is covered by calcium. So it has 5 projections, call them spines. If you have to, the body of the larva has bilateral. If it's still larva, it can be divided into 2. But the adult, like this one now is the case of the adult, it is pentaladiate, meaning that it can be divided into 5. All right? 5 parts, you see, equal parts. You see, it has, if you count even these spines, there are 5. All right? The mouth is located on the lower side. So if we are to look at the mouth, just the lower side, down where the mouth is, and the anus is located on the upper side. All right? So those are examples. So another thing you can look at, another last example of these lower level organisms in the kingdom Animalia is what we call the Corallentellata. As I mentioned earlier, call them Kindarian, all right? So what are the features? Look at this. Look at this. I always like showing you pictures. When I show you the pictures, I think it is very easy for you, because when I'm talking of the characteristics, when I'm talking of the features, I told you we emphasize the external features. Those features that can be visible with your eye. Don't go inside. Don't go inside. No. Look at just the external features. Not so. Everybody, you should always, when I talk of the characteristics, the common characteristics, normally we emphasize on the outside. Those are the number of legs. Those are the body parts, as always repeat. Those are the presence or absence of the wings, presence or absence of antenna. Those are the major things that normally we look at when we are classifying organisms. So look at that. When we talk of the body part, how is it? The jellyfish. Some of the examples we have the jellyfish, the hydra, the anemomas. See? So look at this jellyfish as a good example of phyla Corallentellata. What does it have when you look at the body part? So now this one have a sac-like body cavity that also acts as a gut. This thing you see is like a sac. This is its gut, all right? This is its gut. A sac-like. It's like a sac. So it has also, the body has radial symmetry. Any section passing through the body gives 2 equal parts. If you cut it like this, it gives you equal parts, all right? So it gives, if you cut it the other way, so it gives you 2 equal halves, all right? Yeah, it possesses a lot of tentacles. These are all tentacles, all right? To remind ourselves, what is the use of the tentacle? I've just mentioned what are the uses, or what are the advantages of the tentacles. So we say the tentacles are very sensitive. Very sensitive to what? Very sensitive to predators, normally security, all right? So the normally found is where the eyes are located for the other case we looked at, all right? So the tentacles, they are very sensitive body parts. For this case, for their security, you see they have a lot of them, all right? They have a lot of tentacles. So before we go to questions, before we look at the questions, I want us to remember that in this Unit 1 that we have been studying, as I'm concluding, or we are concluding it together here today, we have all along been looking at two main phyla. Those are the chordate and the arthropoda. All right? The chordate, those are the animals that have got, under the kingdom Animalia, that have got the backbone. All right? And then we looked at the arthropoda. The arthropoda rise under organisms that don't possess a backbone. All right? Or the vertebral column. All right? So they are called invertebrates. All right? So apart from the two, we also have to learn some other phyla that we have mentioned here today that also belong to kingdom Animalia, but they are on a lower level. All right? A lower level. So as we mentioned them, they're almost 7 in number. So you have to know, as I said in our today's objectives, you have to know each and every the characteristics they possess. And some of the examples, as I have shown you. So from here, I think everybody now, with Unit 1, which is classification of kingdom Animalia, any question that may arise, everyone can easily pass it. Not so? So today, I hope everybody has learned the many characteristics of each of these phyla in other phylum under kingdom Animalia. Their characteristics mainly and their examples. That's what we have to know at our level of senior 2. All right? Good. So these are the questions. I'll leave you with 2 questions to help you remind on what we have just covered. If you look at the questions, they are on the screen. 1. Question A, you match the animals of A with the phyla they belong to B. So this is A, these are animals, these are the names, so you match. All right? B, identify characteristic features of the above phyla, referring to the examples given here. So return me each of the, if let's say this one belongs to A, that's just an example. So you tell me Coelenterata has got these features. Mollusca has these features. Platyhelms has these features. So you also match where one belongs. All right? Oh, so hope Unit 1 has been colorful and enjoyable to everybody, and you will pass it in case you meet any question on that. All right? Thank you so much. We meet in another lesson. Bye. Good.